If you're still not a Muslim, here's a historical miracle that will definitely convince you, or at least give you a good laugh.
Chapter 44, verses 29 to 31. Neither heaven nor earth wept over them, nor was their fate delayed. And we certainly delivered the children of Israel from the humiliating torment of Pharaoh. He was truly a tyrant, a transgressor. What is interesting about this Quranic verse is the specific wording being used. Neither heaven nor earth wept over them, meaning Pharaoh and his people believed the earth and sky wept for them, yet again using the similar style, the Quran is stating, although they believed it would weep for them, God is directly rejecting this to be the truth in reality and correcting the facts, like in the previous example. Now that we understand the verse, where is the miracle in all of this? Well, only recently in the 1880s, archaeologists discovered hieroglyphics from ancient Egypt, and they were not translated until the 1910s. The hieroglyphics translated say, "The sky weeps for thee, the earth trembles for thee." Now you may say, okay, well the Quranic verse says the heavens and the earth did not weep for Pharaoh, whereas the translation and the wording here is a bit off. Instead of heaven and earth weeping, it's sky weep and earth tremble. Now mistranslations can occur, and words can be a bit off here or there, especially after thousands of years. Except, we have another translator of hieroglyphics and ancient Egyptian texts stating, the translations are meant to reflect as closely as possible the language and style of the text themselves. Egyptian is rich in allegory and metaphor, but relatively poor in vocabulary. I've tried to reflect the latter feature by using as much as possible for its Egyptian counterpart. PT is translated throughout as sky rather than heaven, because they each carry a wealth of connotations that is often impossible to capture in a single English word. Also, to further support this view, we have another Journal of Egyptian Archaeology from 1936, which also translates the hieroglyphics as heaven and earth weep for thee. So we know that the sky and heaven can be used interchangeably to some extent depending on the instances. And now the Quran perfectly matches the hieroglyphics. Not only that, the Arabic word for heaven and sky are the same, sama, and sometimes they're used interchangeably, and sometimes they're distinct depending on its context and usage. However, in this example, they can be interchangeable as well, as we even have a Quran translation by Maududi that instead of heaven says neither the sky nor earth. For an illiterate person with no access to even an Arabic Bible in the 7th century, let alone hieroglyphics that were not discovered nor translated until almost 1,300 years later. Not only that, but the specific phraseology used here in the Quran is the only time it's ever used, and it only refers to the Pharaoh. And this use of motif and exact wording was not used any time in any literature before the Quran. No one who lived during the time of the Prophet ﷺ had knowledge of the pyramid texts or what was written in them, and only recently were they both discovered and translated. Any rational person would understand the miracle here in the Quran.
Alright, just for fun, let's say everything the miracle video claims is true. Hieroglyphics say, the sky weeps, the Quran says, it doesn't. And somehow it's got the first ever subtweet in history. So now we're left with two options. Option A, a divine being decided that Pharaoh's funeral coverage was the perfect moment to flex his omniscience. Option B, it's just a coincidence, as the Quran and Hadith throw out dozens of claims about Pharaoh and Egypt. Statistically, at least one vague statement was bound to overlap with something an archaeologist would later scribble in a journal on a random Tuesday in 1936. Look, if you want to call this a miracle, that's fine, but you carry the burden. That means pulling out all of Muhammad's statements about Pharaoh, not cherry-picking one poetic overlap and packaging it like a greatest hits album that only has one song. And it's on cassette, and the tape is jammed, as we'll see later. A real miracle, like a historically convincing drop-the-mic moment, needs more than an old verse that kinda sorta maybe resembles something scholars once debated. It needs scholarly confirmation, not a YouTuber conclusion. Clear, specific language, not metaphors anyone could twist. Actual improbability, not something already culturally widespread. Convince the Egyptologists, get the journals, show us the consensus that screams, wow, this is mind-blowing. Then we can talk. You might call it a bias toward naturalism, but that's a line we hear from Christians too, and it misses the point. The truth is, everyone applies the same skeptical standard when it comes to other religions. Imagine this. Joseph Smith once said, "The sky didn't weep for the death of Laman." Centuries later, archaeologists dig up a stone in Mesoamerica that says, "The heavens mourned for Laman." Now, be honest. Would you immediately drop everything, sell your soul on eBay, yank your kids out of school, and devote your entire life to Joseph Smith, all because of one sentence carved into a rock? Of course not. You'd squint at it, maybe chuckle, and move on with your day. Because you instinctively know that this looks like a coincidence, not a clear miracle. It's just specific enough to fool someone who really wants to be fooled. We don't lower the standards because of a single coincidence, right? Unless you're defending your own religion, of course.
If there is just one chance in a million that this is true, it's worth believing.
The disciples claiming they saw the risen Jesus?
The idea of stealing the body and lying about the resurrection would never have occurred to these first century Jews.
What about the Mormons who see golden plates?
And I think the very simple answer is that Joseph Smith and these early witnesses were charlatans.
See my point? Now, let's talk problems. Let's start with the crying sky idea. It's all over the ancient world, specifically pre-Islamic times. And it was among the expressions of the Arabs that when a great man died, they would magnify the matter of his death with phrases like, "The sky wept for him, the wind wept for him, and the mountains trembled." And the Arabs used to say, when one of their chiefs died, the heaven and the earth wept for him. And this Shia scholar has this to say: the fifth opinion is that weeping is a metaphor for rain and watering, since the Arabs compared rain to weeping. So the meaning of the verse is that the sky did not water their graves, nor send its drops upon them, according to the common practice among the Arabs, because they would pray for the clouds to water the graves of their beloved dead and cause flowers and gardens to grow on their burial sites. People in the pre-Islamic times already believed that cosmic events, like the sun and moon eclipsing, happened when great men died. It was their version of saying, even the universe is sad about this. So, if that kind of poetic language already existed, even as a possibility, and we can't prove the Quran invented it, the rational move is to go with the natural explanation, not the magical one. That's just how humans work. Unless, of course, you're already sold on the faith and just looking to keep your confirmation bias comfy. I mean, Paul said 500 people saw the risen Jesus. Did he have receipts? No? He probably lied about it. Simple. Moving on. So what exactly is the Quran doing? Is it responding to Egyptian theology, or just using a widely known poetic expression? The verse doesn't tell us. If it said, as they claimed, the heavens and earth wept, okay, we'd have something to work with. But it doesn't. Now we're left squinting at two possibilities, one speculative, the other equally vague, and neither backed by clear evidence. So, if ancient Egyptians did say the sky cried over Pharaoh, it's a miracle. But if they didn't? No big deal. The verse never actually said it was responding to them anyway. So you win either way. It's exactly how a devoted follower would twist anything to prove their faith. The pyramid text cited, utterance 553, dates to around 2400 BCE, Old Kingdom Egypt. A solid 800 plus years before the Exodus, assuming the Exodus happened at all. So if this was such a profound Egyptian belief, why don't we see it plastered all over the tombs of pharaohs that actually line up with the supposed time of the Exodus? Maybe the Egyptians were saying, the sky weeps for their kings, but single out this one pharaoh. We don't know. It's all speculation stacked on speculation, and no side can actually prove anything. The Quran says, neither heaven nor earth wept over them. And just to be clear, the them here isn't just Pharaoh. It's Pharaoh and his entire army. So, unless there's an ancient scroll out there titled, "The sky also cried for that one horse who slipped in the Red Sea," the Quran could be dunking on an argument nobody actually made. Utterance 553 says, the sky weeps, the earth trembles. The Quran says, neither heaven nor earth wept. Well, did the earth weep or tremble? Because those are not the same thing. This isn't nitpicking. It's the core of the miracle claim. To fix this, he brings in another text.
We have another Journal of Egyptian Archaeology from 1936, which also translates the hieroglyphics as "Heaven and earth weep for thee."
That quote comes from the Brunner Rind Papyrus, dated to the 4th century BCE. That's about 1,000 years after Moses, assuming he even clocked in for work on the historical timeline. And even better, it's not about a pharaoh at all. It's a temple hymn to Osiris. You know, a god. Not a king, not a soldier, not even a royal cat. Bottom line, this isn't divine revelation, it's Quranic apologetics. Whether ancient Egyptians ever said the sky weeps or not, the Quran never had to respond to it in the first place. Thanks for watching, and may neither heaven nor earth weep if this video offends someone's miracle meter.